Here's my question for you. Are you wearing a blue shirt today, sort of as a follow-up to your LED color comment last time? Because it's like, I feel like you were laying in bed one night and you're like, how can I make sort of my frame, on the show more blue? And then you're like, duh, blue shirt.
Yes. That's not why I'm wearing a blue shirt.
It's a nice shade of blue, though, that shirt, I think.
Yeah. And it's just it's one of those true classic shirts. I mean, I see ads for that a lot, all the time on like Instagram or something like that, where it's like, oh, it's like these shirts that are custom tailored for dad bods.
Oh, yeah. That's what I need. I feel like you talk about those shirts on this show a lot, considering nobody's paying us.
You know what, though? My wife got them, and I like them.
Yeah.
I'll wear this, and they're real. They just fit really well, and I don't know, they're just soft and comfy.
Yeah.
I just like them. What can I say?
Yeah. So I feel like every time I talk to somebody who doesn't like cats, like their reasoning for not liking cats is always like some variation on the same thing. It's like
that they're assholes.
Yeah, or cats are standoffish, or they're cold-hearted, they're not affectionate enough. Like, people that are really into dogs, now, like, this is why I don't like cats. And like, my question for those people is, where do I get one of those cats?
They just like wants to leave you alone.
Well, it's just like, like Ladybird's she's only the second cat I've really had like in my adult life,
Mm-hmm.
Like we always had cats when I was a kid, like multiple. But, since I moved away, went to college and then, obviously started my own life. Like, I had one cat for like 12 years and then he passed away. And then for a while we didn't have a cat. And now we have Ladybird. And like in both cases, like these cats are stuck to me like glue. And like the reason I bring it up is like right now she just got finished finally crying, and now I just heard her like digging her paws under the basement door because
she's trying to get down there
because she wants to come down here. But it's like if she was just going to come down here and like chill out in my lap or flop down on the floor, then like no problem. But like she wants to come down here and like climb all over everything and like knock stuff over and be a pain. So like she can't, like if I wasn't recording, I'm saying, then 100% I'd let her come down here, and if she wants to play, like no big deal. But
right.
Speaking of which, the playing, I mean, it's like having a tiny golden retriever, like the energy level this cat has. And like,
how old is she?
She's like 2.
Okay.
But I mean, she constantly wants me to play with her, and then she like bitches me out if I don't. Like if I go sit in my office and I'm working on something, she's out in the hallway like meowing at me because I'm not paying attention to her.
Sounds like
so I'm saying like,
kinda.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is, where do I get these cats that all these cat haters, are getting in contact with,
I don't know. You could probably just go to the ASPCA and probably
what do you
find
ask?
one.
Do I ask for like, hey, can I get like a low maintenance, standoffish?
Or you could go to
cat?
like a cat cafe. You ever been to a cat cafe?
I think like
cafe?
Once, yeah. But those cats are pretty much, they want to be around people.
Not always. I mean, you get ones that are hiding out.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that are going to leave you alone.
I don't want it to sound like I'm complaining. I mean, I love my cat very much. I'm just saying, like, I don't mind that she does all the things I just said. Like, if you don't want a cat, or you don't want a pet that wants to like hang out with you, then like, why do you have a pet? So I'm not complaining about my cat. I guess what I'm really saying is I don't understand who these cats are, that these people who hate cats. I don't know. I don't know
if they probably don't exist, or they
is.
met one cat in their life that was like that, and that is the only thing that they remember, and they always go back to it.
Maybe.
I mean, like, I grew up with cats, and I love cats, but I think that my cat is kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I mean, she is, like, she sleeps all day, and then she, like, runs around after everyone's in bed, and now that we have this dog, it's like she's trying to bait the dog. Who's like flying, like she can't stand the dog most of the time.
Yeah.
But when she's not being annoyed by the dog, she's like, I'm going to try to get you in trouble. And, like usually late at night, the dog's asleep. Like the dog sleeps with my wife and I like every night. I mean, she's just little, and she just.
But the cat does not. The cat doesn't.
No, the cat sleeps in various places throughout the day, and then at 1 a.m. she's like, I'm gonna go crazy, and then she'll the way that she does it is she starts zooming around the whole house, and it's almost intentional where it sounds like she's just gripping onto the carpet so hard when she's running that it sounds like she's kind of tearing stuff up behind her.
Sure, yeah.
And that makes my dog go, and then fly off the bed and kind of chase her for a second. Yeah. And immediately when that happens, then my cat stops running and just stares at her and is on her, get away from me, leave me alone.
Are you sure maybe your cat's not trying to play with your dog? It sounds almost like
I guess she likes the idea of playing with the dog until the dog actually is all about it. I mean, all that my dog wants to do is to play with my cat. She's just please play with me.
Yeah.
Let's do something.
Yeah.
And and my cat knows that. And because the thing is my dog's so small she can't get back up on the bed unless she's really, really hyped up and
why don't
really
you
wants
get
to.
one of those little things for.
I mean, I thought about it. I've looked at there's an open box store and they've had those before, but I feel like they're still not tall enough that I don't think that she could get. She needs to kind of have a running start to get up.
Yeah.
So even if she went up, I don't think that she'd be able to completely get up. And I just because when that happens, and she jumps off the bed, and my cat doesn't want to play. She's like, "All right, fine, I'm going back to bed."
Yeah.
And then she can't get back up there, and then she's like, the way that my dog is, she doesn't. I don't know if all Shih Tzus are like this, but the way that she tries to get your attention is she doesn't bark right away. She kind of has this work up to her. She's like, and it's kind of getting up. She's like, I don't want to yell. I don't want to yell, but I'm going to let you know that if you don't pick me up and get me back on the bed, I'm going to yell.
Yeah.
She's like, it's very cute.
Yeah.
And she'll do that if you see her from across the room and she looks at you and you just stare at her. Then she's like, don't stare at me. If you're going to stare at me, you got to come over here and play with me.
Yeah.
Because then she'll be like, it's very funny. I should try to get it on camera for you.
Yeah. That'd be cool. So my cat, she wakes up, right now she's getting up around 5:30. Mm-hmm. So she sleeps at night, unlike your cat. She goes to bed when we go to bed, but then she wakes up, right now it's at 5:30, but as you can imagine, cats can't tell time. I don't know if you knew that, but, so I don't know what their rhythms are like, or I don't know if it's just as soon as the sun starts just peeking over the horizon, she gets up, and whenever she gets up, she wants me to get up. Right. And so she has various tactics that she uses to just be as annoying as possible so that I'll get up. Right. Mm-hmm. And, usually it's going under the bed and clawing the underside of the bed, going behind the bed and sticking her paws up, behind the headboard. For some reason, she'll I'm the one that gets up with her 98% of the time. I think I'm more of a morning person than my wife is. If I get out of bed at 6 a.m, I'm fine with that. But I think my wife would prefer to sleep a little bit longer. Not that she sleeps late, but 6 o'clock is a tough sell for some people. But she'll go and she'll slap my wife in the face. Instead of, she never bothers me. She bothers my wife until I get up. But then this morning, I'm still laying in bed. I'm kind of still drifting in and out of sleep.
She's playing mind games. It's that is, that's pretty serious.
She's playing 4D chess. Yeah. So this morning I hear this commotion in the bedroom, and I'm pretty sure I know what it is anyway. And I'm trying to ignore it because I really wasn't ready to get up yet. And finally I'm like, oh, So we have our dresser is this antique dresser.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is just the drawers are not on ball bearing gliders, right? Or it's not one of those dressers where like, you close the drawer most of the way and then it slowly shuts itself. The rest, it's like wood sliding on wood, man. It's like an old,
It makes a lot of noise.
Yeah, but also sometimes like you don't shut the drawer all the way, like not on purpose, but like you leave it open like an inch or something. And like my drawer, like it's only a 3-drawer dresser and my drawer's on the bottom.
And you could probably drop it out off the roof of your house and it wouldn't break probably.
I'm not going to try that, but yeah, a pretty good chance. But, so like my drawer, anytime I leave my drawer open a little bit, Ladybird has to get in there and start screwing with stuff. So like this morning, I guess the drawer was open like an inch or an inch and a half. And I hear this commotion, like I said, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know what that is, but I really don't want to get out of bed yet. But it just like keeps going and going and going and going, right? So finally I'm like, ugh. So I take my earplugs out because yes, I can hear this even though I have earplugs in.
You sleep with earplugs?
Oh, yeah. And I take my earplugs out and I go look, and there's Ladybird sitting in front of the dresser with a huge pile of my underwear and a huge pile of my socks. Because what she does is she reaches in there and she pulls stuff out like through the crack one by one and just keeps pulling out more stuff and more stuff and more stuff.
And she's like, this is so much fun.
No, because
imagine like that being so much fun for somebody.
And then you get up, and then she's like, "Oh, you're up. Well, as long as you're up, why don't we go downstairs and you can give me some food?" Because that's what that's all about at the end of the day.
This freaking water bottle like makes.
I know. Get a quiet. Don't you have like 9 water bottles? You don't have a quieter one?
Well,
but then so then I'll go downstairs and I'll feed her, and then she eats, and then she's like, "Okay, now I've eaten. I've gotten that need met." But then like she doesn't like it that yes, I'm awake and I'm downstairs with her. But where's my wife? Because we should all be together, because, cats are social creatures, right? So it's like, well, you're here with me, but I want the other one too. And so then she'll go back upstairs and start harassing my wife until she wakes up as well. And then only when all 3 of us are downstairs in the kitchen, then Ladybird's happy. And then she wants to just play with everybody and have a good time.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised that when she gets you both down there, she's like, all right, I'm out.
No. Then she's all hyper and she wants us to play with her,
Okay.
But
well,
according to people that don't like cats, they're standoffish and don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah, they only met like one cat.
Yeah.
In their life that is problematic in that way, I guess. And they decided that all cats are like that. Yeah. But I don't know. Like that sounds obnoxious too. I'm just like I'd be like, leave me, stop it.
Oh, she's super obnoxious. But at this point, it's like we've had her for a couple of years, and this is just how it is. So,
yeah. You've had her for a couple of years already. You got her like at the beginning of the pandemic, right?
No. We got her in 2021.
Okay.
It was my birthday weekend, so it was like late May of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had her just not quite 2 years, right? 2 years minus 2 months. So I didn't bring a whole lot to talk about today, unlike last time.
Okay.
But I'm going to vent.
I got a couple little things, but
I'm going to vent a little bit first.
Okay. Do we want to intro the show first before you get into that?
Yeah. You're listening to episode 21 of Here's My Question for You. You can now buy beer in California. You can buy cigarettes. 21.
Drinking and smoking. That's we should be drinking and smoking now on the show. We should only be doing things that reflect.
I don't know. You said a while back like, oh, we should always have a cup of coffee when we're, and then like I started bringing coffee and then you didn't have any. Like you'd like to throw out these ideas and then not follow through with them.
Well, like
I'm not going to go buy a pack of cigarettes and then next time like I'm over here sucking on cancer sticks and you're like, oh, I didn't know we were actually doing
that. It's like I haven't smoked in 14 years, but like, hey,
you brought it up now.
Let's smoke.
Yeah.
I was talking more about drinking.
Oh, well, it's like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning here. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
Well, I mean, I'll put a couple shots of bourbon in a coffee if that helps you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, this is all I was going to say, just because, I was pretty pissed about this yesterday. Like now I'm kind of over it, but it's just going to happen again. And that's what I hate it. I think that smart. I'm going to sound like a total like boomer retro grouch kind of person saying this, but I guess I'm curious other people's opinions. Like,
Okay.
I think that smartphones are the most awful, horrible, evil invention of ever. Like I cannot tell you how much I hate. Like if anything, I don't own things that I hate. You don't own things you hate because then why do you have them, right? Like I went out and made the conscious decision to purchase something because I wanted it, right? The only thing I have that I hate its very existence is my phone. Like I'm bitter about the fact that I have to have one. I'm upset about the fact that I have to buy a new one every few years because that one gets all worn out. It's like, and this is what happened. And I'll try to keep this short, but we know how that's going to go. But like we have this drawer in the kitchen, okay, and you open the drawer and there's like two bowls in this drawer, right? There's my bowl and there's my wife's bowl. We come home, you open the drawer, and I empty my pockets out into my bowl, basically, like keys, wallet, headphones, sunglasses, cash, whatever's in my pockets, boom, goes in the bowl, right?
Yeah.
And that way I never have to look like, oh, where are my keys? Oh, I can't find my wallet. No, it's in the bowl. It's either in my pocket or it's in the bowl. Easy, right?
Yes.
The one thing I can't put in the bowl is my phone, right? Because I need it. Like even when I'm at home, it's like they make it so that you're dependent, right?
Well, you don't have a landline anymore, I'm sure.
But but I don't use my phone. I don't make phone calls on my phone. Like it shouldn't even be called a phone anymore because like if somebody calls me, I'm not picking up. I hate talking on the phone. But anyway, that's not the point. But I'm saying for things like two-factor authentication, right?
Right.
Like if I take my phone and I put it in the bowl, I guarantee you later that day or the next day, if it's the weekend, I'm going to be doing something on my computer where it's like, oh, you need to go check your authenticator app or I'm trying to buy something with Apple Pay and it's like, oh, your phone's not close enough to your computer. And it's like, yeah, because I'm not a 12-year-old who carries my phone around with me 24/7. Like, So, because this happened the other day, I was trying to buy something on Castlemania Games, and I was doing the Apple Pay, and it's like, oh, your phone's not close, and then you have to double click the side button on your phone to confirm, And so I had to go downstairs. I had to find my phone, right? Because that's the other thing. I can never find my phone because I always have to use it for something, and then I leave it wherever I was using it, right? Because I can't put my phone in the bowl, right? So I go find my phone. I bring it upstairs. I check out from Castlemania, do the double click on the phone, and then I take my phone and I just drop it on my desk, right? I'm not hidden. It's just like, boom, here it is on my desk, right? And then that's the last time I needed to use my phone for the rest of the weekend, right? So then what happens? Yesterday's Monday, right? I'm ready to go to work. I go downstairs. I go into the drawer, get everything out of the bowl, put it in my pockets, put my shoes on, put my jacket on. And I'm like, as I'm walking out of the house, I do the little pocket check, the bing, bang, bang, like, do I have my keys? Do I have my wallet? Do I have my phone?
Yeah.
Crap, I don't have my phone, right? So now I'm just like, oh, because here's the other problem, right? Because I don't remember that, like, oh, I bought something yesterday or whatever, and it's upstairs. I'm not sure where it is, but the two places, I shouldn't even say two places. There's plenty of places in the house it could be. Now I have to take my shoes back off. And now I have to go search through my house for my phone. And the whole time I'm just like cursing.
Yes.
Because I hate the fact that I have to dedicate a pocket of my pants. Like I used to keep other stuff in that pocket, like that pocket wasn't just like available for use. It's like, I just basically had to say like, sorry, gum, you can't be in there anymore. Because now I have to have this fakakta phone that I carry around with me. Right. So then I finally find that thing. Oh, because here's why I have to have my phone. So at my job, there's 3 separate things that I have to use my personal cell phone for at my job. So I cannot show up at work without my phone, right? Because if it was just like before we had those things, if you went to work without your phone, you'd be like, okay, that's a minor inconvenience because people want to text me or whatever. But like if I forgot my phone or my wife forgot her phone, we would just email and say, hey, just FYI, don't text me. I forgot my phone. But like now it's like I have to have it,
Yeah.
And it's just like I hate the constant availability that everybody can just like, and then there's the sense of entitlement that goes along with that. Well, didn't you get my text message? Yeah, I saw it. Well, why didn't you reply? Because I'm busy. I don't feel like it. Like, I don't know. Like, why? Like, I think I mentioned that in a previous episode that I had gotten a second phone just to use as like a portable music player.
Yeah.
Because I had this coworker who, like, literally, if you didn't respond within a couple of minutes, you were like in trouble. I mean, she's an extreme example, obviously, but it's just like, I sent you a text. You didn't respond in the time it would take somebody to immediately take their phone out of their pocket and then reply. Like, what should I think about that? Like, she asked me that one time. She's like, what should I think about the fact that you didn't respond to my text?
What did you say?
I don't even remember. I think I said, you should think that I'm busy.
You were seeing red at the time.
I don't have time to respond to every single text like I'm a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
Because then the other thing
I get that because, I mean, a lot of times, even my wife will say, like, oh, didn't you see my message?
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, you know, directly upstairs from me. It's just sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, a lot of times I won't see them because I have my phone muted all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it's just I never use like the actual alert sounds. But, you know, that's just I guess just part of like existing now. Like,
no, absolutely. It's not, and it's not going to change. That's what I guess for me, like, just makes it like worse. Like,
but you shouldn't feel bad for not responding. Like, I barely ever respond. You know, there was a time, and I still have this enabled, where you can turn on the receipts where they can see if you've read a message.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, I'm going to turn this on so that it kind of forces me to respond in a timely manner. It doesn't make a difference. Now I like really, like, if something pops up on the front of my phone and I can only read like a portion of the message and I see who it's from, I'm like, I'm not going to go into this message because I don't want them to see that I've read this.
Yeah, I get that.
But
like, I have to worry
you can
about
pretend like it doesn't exist, even though you know that it exists.
I think we talked about this on a previous show about how now I have to watch like how I type out replies to like the younger people I work with, because like, oh, he put a period at the end of that sentence. He's mad at me. It's like, are you kidding me?
See, I've never experienced anything like that.
Oh,
that
I totally have.
like
A lot of the things that you see people say online, like, oh, these young kids are doing this or doing that. I can tell you matter of factly that yes, they're doing that. That's not somebody trying to stir up drama.
I mean, a lot of
online.
times, like, adults are like just as bad, if not worse, about that stuff. You know,
they
I
can be, but that's
around,
my point. Is I don't want to deal. I want to have a flip phone, and it's like I want to just be able to say, like, look, I don't do texts, I don't do any of that stuff. Yeah. If you have like an emergency, you can call me. Because that's the other thing. People think nothing of sending you a text, even though they wouldn't call you. Well, I didn't call you because it wasn't that big of a deal. Well, you sent me a text. What's the difference?
Yeah,
it's the same thing. Yeah. They're both intrusive.
Right, but I mean, you say you don't pick up the phone if they send you a text. Like, that's like the next best way to like get a hold of you, right?
Well, I say I don't. If somebody I know
like what
calls
they said,
me, I'm not gonna
like,
not
pick
up
so
the
here's
phone.
a text.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
I'm saying I don't want to talk on the phone, but I'm saying like if I see a coworker calling me on the phone and be like, oh man, this must be a big, something must be going on. Of course, I'm going to answer it.
Yeah.
But like, and it's just one of those things where it's like, I want, I treat other people the way I want to be treated. Mm-hmm. And like, to me, like if I send my boss a text message, it's because it's an emergency. It's like I have some urgent issue where I don't think that if I email you, it's going to get addressed fast enough. Right. But to me, it's like, I know I'm being intrusive. I am sending a message to you that's going to make an alarm go off in your pocket. Like, it better be worth it. But most people don't feel that way.
Well, you have an iPhone, right?
Yeah.
You can do like focus modes where it's like, oh, if you're home, you only receive text notifications from these people. It'll only let you know. You can put like your boss's number on there. What's that?
I said I don't know about any of that stuff.
You should. I mean, if you want to, you can set it by like location too. It's like, oh, if you're like your home address, if you're there, it'll only buzz and give you a notification at these times if it's from these specific people.
That just sounds so complicated.
It is.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm not really looking for solutions. I mean, I just really want to just like vent. I hate it. It's the worst. I hate that you can't hang out with people without them taking their phone out. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like if there's more than 5 seconds of silence anymore, when you're, in person with anybody. It's like, oh, awkward silence. Let me get my phone out of my pocket.
Yeah.
Right. People have like no attention span anymore. And I'm not saying I'm not guilty of that stuff sometimes too, but that's my point. Is it's just like, in a lot of ways, smartphones have turned everybody into like a worse version of themselves.
Yeah. Well, it's not even just like worse version of themselves. I think it's just like humanity.
Yeah.
In general. But I mean, there's a lot of good that's come along with them as well.
I mean,
like if
for sure there
you
is. I just think. I mean, I think
like
that
a natural disaster or something like that, or like there's.
Well, or there's
what
just
if-
times where there's an emergency and like now you can contact someone that you need to contact. That's great. But not even just that, like having access to the internet in your pocket, ideally, should be like a good thing. Having instant access to any information you could possibly want. But I just think like the benefits that they have brought are, in my opinion, far outweighed by like how intruded upon I feel in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
in terms of that, like the main thing that I brought to talk about.
Yeah. I'm done with my.
Well, I mean, it's kind of related in a way because I wonder like if it's going to end up being like the next worst.
Yeah.
Invention of mankind, and that's like AI.
Oh, I think so.
So the whole thing is like I've been like reading. I've seen some stuff about like AI voices.
Yeah.
AI generated voices. I'm sure you've seen like things like videos here and there of like people of note saying certain things that like they would never say.
Yes.
And it's like using AI generation.
Yeah.
So I had an experience with this yesterday where I had to do something for work, and I needed some additional voiceover from somebody who was like not a video person. And I said, okay, let's just like jump on video on Teams, and I use like my ability to record my audio like we're doing right now as a way for them to talk and like narrate this stuff, but it's just them talking to their webcam.
Yeah. So
And
not
it
good quality.
doesn't sound great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not great quality. So Adobe has this thing in the works right now where you can upload a voice clip and it will use AI to like, I don't know if it's like cleaning it up or if it's completely recreating it.
Yeah.
Where I uploaded this woman's voice, this sounded like crap, and it came back and it sounded like it was like recorded with my microphone.
Yeah.
And it sounded like the exact same thing. I don't know if it just like cleaned it up, like ran a bunch of filters on it, or if it was completely recreating it from scratch.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing, but also frightening. So the thing I was reading about how like the new big phone scam that's going on is people are using AI to recreate the voice of like a loved one who's like contacting you and then asking for money.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in really big trouble. Can you like wire some money to me for this?
Yeah.
And like, that's just like, what happens?
Yeah. I don't know. It's,
I mean, we like not trust anything.
No, because that's the problem. Is anything like that gets created is going to be used for nefarious purposes.
Yeah.
It sucks because like you watch like Star Trek: The Next Generation, right? And you're like, oh, they have this holodeck. It's so awesome. But it's like if we had something like that, which is kind of where we're headed in some ways, with this AI stuff, it's going to get used for not, I don't want to say evil, but it's going to be used for bad purposes. At least as much as good,
Yes. I mean, we'd like to believe that people are not just out to scam everybody 100% of the time.
Yeah, but I mean, not even just that, but, whenever stuff like, I hear about stuff like that, I just think more about even just guys like us and, like somebody can use that to make some fake clip of like, oh, I've got this clip of Classic Gaming Quarterly using the N-word or whatever,
Yeah.
Right. And then what am I going to I'm going to come back and go, oh, that's fake. Well, that's what everybody already says now about anything they don't want to believe. Oh, that's fake news. Right. And so you're going to say the same thing. Oh, well, of course you're going to say it's fake because you just got caught being racist on a hot mic.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When it's like something that you would never even
do
in like a million years. Like, it's just like, it's a real slippery slope, and I don't even understand, like, know what happens next. Like, I mean, how long is it before, like, our shows, like, people can just, like, hey, I want somebody, I'm going to put an AI in to make a classic gaming quarterly style launch video for this system, and it just, like, uses your voice, and it's, like, edited in the same way. Like,
yeah. I don't know.
At what point is there any creative process left? And, like, there's plenty of, like I was very relieved that I could take that audio and run it through there. It's like, oh, that's, like, using that as a tool to improve a final product.
Yeah.
Like, it helped a lot, even though, like, it's not really going anywhere. But it's like, I don't know. Like, it's, have you seen, like, many episodes or watched any episode of that show, Black Mirror?
No.
You should
I'm not
check
going
it
to,
out.
but I'm not.
It's like but it's interesting, but it's, like, also, like, a lot of, like, every single one is about something different.
Yeah.
And it's all about, like, technology being used in different ways, and most of the time it's like, oh, this is, like, a horrible thing to happen.
Yeah.
But then other times there's like, oh, that's nice. That happens, like, once or twice.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, it's kind of nice.
Yeah. I don't know. I try not to think about that kind of stuff too much, just because it's kind of depressing. But
yeah,
I mean, I don't worry about, like, the last thing you said before, the TV show thing. Like, I don't really worry about, people using AI to. I mean, people already sort of copycat my show, and like, the types of people that do things like that, where they're not creative people or whatever, they're just trying to, like, copy somebody else's stuff because they're trying to make money or whatever. They never have the kind of work ethic that it would take to, like, do something properly, right? Like, I see people make videos where I'm like, gee, that looks like somebody that watched a few episodes of my show. It always sucks. And so, like, I don't, if somebody wants to try to make an AI version of what I do, like, I'm not worried about, like, oh, that's gonna, now I'm competing against that. Like, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, there's no, like, I mean, that was just like one of many examples. I think that in the scheme of things, like, making documentary style YouTube videos is probably low on the level of, like, scariness, I guess, or just like, oh,
Yeah, I mean, but even as far as sort of, like, if you want to call it, content style theft or content impersonation, like, nobody's trying to copy our shows. Like, people are going to try to copy, like, Jake Paul and stuff like that, make like fake Jake, like, he should be worried.
Yeah.
But hey, speaking of YouTube videos, I don't even know why I'm bringing this up, except I just thought it was really cool. I finally got around. I don't know if you watched the Game Sack episode where he, like, showcased, like, every single Sega CD game.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that I've seen it, but it's been a while. Like, every U.S. release, right?
He's done that. Like, he did, like, here's, like, a video of, like, here's every TurboGrafx 16 game. Here's every Neo Geo game.
Yep.
He's done it, and he did it with, but for some reason, like 2 nights ago or something, I found myself watching the Sega CD one, and I don't know if this is something people don't notice as much if they're not also somebody that makes, like, produces video content or whatever. But, like, the transitions that Joe makes for his show are just always so cool.
Oh, like, he does, like, the color separation or something like that, or just, like, has that.
It's just like different stuff. Like, he had for the TurboGrafx 16 one, it was like this thing that, like, sort of, like, came up on the screen, like, and then, like, came back around, and it was like the next game.
And the Sega CD one is like the rolling disc or something.
Yeah, like the disc rolls by and has this little ticking noise that I don't know. It's just like, because I know the kind of time it takes to do something like that, and I don't know if it's the kind of thing, like, because nobody is subscribed to his show because they're like, oh man, this guy's got the best transitions, right? It's like they like it because they like Joe's style and whatnot. And so I don't know if that sticks. It's the kind of thing that maybe it's not. It's like the bass player in a band. Like, it doesn't stick out, but it just, like, adds to the overall quality of the video. But, like, as somebody that makes videos, like, I notice that Joe does stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I just always think, like, man, that's so cool.
Well, we can ask them. I wonder if anybody has ever, like said, I watch your show because of their cool transitions between segments.
Yeah.
I think that like the enduring popularity of the show comes down a lot, like in my opinion, to people are just like excited to see what's next. Like that is like the thing that I love about his show so much is that you never know what the next thing is going to be. So that's in like each game, it's like it's a few minutes on each game. And it's like, oh, we're going to get, like 5 to 10 games in like a general episode. And like, what's it going to be? Like, what are they going to be? And that's, you watching in like little, like snippets like that. And it just keeps your attention completely focused because you are just wondering what the next thing that the show up is going to be. And it's going to be something that I like and, or I've never played before. I'm really interested to see what it is. Yeah. And is it going to, is it going to have the same opinion about it as I do?
Yeah.
It's just like, it's a really good formula in a way that, I don't think a lot of, especially like videos that are specifically like focusing on one game.
Yeah.
Like that, I think it's tough. It's tough to keep people watching for such a long time when it's like focused on one game. Like our end of the year video did really, really good. Better, like this year's was better than like significantly better than like any other previous year. I think it just got swept up in the algorithm at some point. Yeah. And I think the reason it did well is because like we're covered like 40 plus games in it, and the people are like, oh, these are the games that they played last year. It's just not stuff that came out last year. It's like from all time periods. And people are excited to see what's next.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of funny you brought that up the way you did, only because it's kind of something I was thinking about this morning about his transitions. Mm-hmm. The way you're talking about how you want to see what's next. Because, a lot of times if I'm doing like one of my longer form videos, I have a tendency to like fade out and fade back in between the segments are longer. I'll spend, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes talking about certain games. And then it's, it will fade out from that and fade into the next one. But then like you watch GameSack and there's no fading. Instead, it's like, here's sort of this active transition.
Right.
And I think it helps keep the viewer. Obviously the fact that the segments are shorter helps, but in some ways I feel like that active transition makes you more like, oh, what's coming up next? I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just like
he will have like an active transition, and then it like it has like a second of black that he can you build in the
that's for the ad breaks. But right, I'm not talking about
we
those.
Do that too, where it has like the
Like, I'm not talking about. I'm just talking about the transitions between the little segments. Like yes, the ad breaks are different, but I don't know. I feel like it encourages like more active viewing.
Yeah, it has a sense of. Like it's pulling you forward.
Yes,
through the episode. Like you're being
you were
pulled
about to you were about to use the word propel, which I like that a lot too.
It's like pushing you. It's like, hey, keep going, or it's like it.
Because in a way, like fading to black and then fading back in is almost like a speed bump.
Yeah, well, it's almost like saying like, okay, like you can pause it here,
right,
if you want to, and you can come back later.
Yeah,
and like in a lot of ways, like the ad breaks are like that. Because it has like a transition, then it has like a second of black, and it comes back up. And we do that. We have like a bumper that it shows our logo like with like a background, and it like has a transition. It goes to black we always use that for like to break up, especially like with two hosts. We use that as a way to end each other's segments. Yeah. So that it's easier to process. Like, oh, we're jumping to another person talking now.
Yeah. There's all stuff that I don't think about because I have no formal training. It's like I have to see somebody else do something, well, and then sort of figure out, oh yeah, that's a good idea, or whatever.
Well, that's.
But then I don't like to steal people's techniques. So,
but you get ideas like, oh, how can I like elaborate or change that idea to work within like my context, Yeah.
So do you have you got a does it slap or should we eat it list over there? Because it is your turn.
I do.
Okay.
I do. All right, are we ready?
Yeah, I will remind you that I cannot hear that.
You've gotta keep one and you two. Pick one that slaps, and the other two get dropped. That's my question for you.
I'm just like imagining him like, you know, like on the ride cymbal.
Yeah.
You know, and like when playing drums to that, you're not holding your sticks like this. He's like holding one like this, like in the drummer,
Yeah.
drummer
Yeah.
style, like, you know, he's just boom, like a jazz style.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. This is I have a number of things here, and there's one that I feel as though I'm going to save because it is like I think it's almost an impossible question, so I'm going to save it. And it's,
Well, I
it's
wish
kinda
you wouldn't tell
tailored
me
to
that
you.
because then it's like the curiosity kills me.
Well, I won't mention it again. Right. Okay, so I had two that I thought of today, and I think, you know, kind of going on this whole like AI and like what is real. It's kind of a good jumping off point for like one of them. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, for the record, like I'm a person who believes in this.
Okay.
But if you could prove without a doubt to the world as a whole the existence of these things,
Yeah.
of one of these,
Yes.
which one would you pick?
Wow.
I mean, it's pretty basic.
Yeah.
But aliens, ghosts, or the Sasquatch or Yeti or Bigfoot or whatever.
Wow. Okay, to me that's a pretty easy question, but first I'll just say because you mentioned last time that you got in trouble with the 1-900 numbers because I think that was aliens stories. Like I totally went through a period when I was a kid where I was super into that stuff. Like I would go to the library and like check out books on like both like aliens and alien abductions, but then also like I got at least one or two books about Bigfoot.
Yeah.
You know, and
those Time Life books.
I was super
right?
into that. Yeah, well, yeah, some of those, but some other stuff too. One of my favorite episodes of the X-Files, I think, was like a first season episode where like Mulder goes up to like Atlantic City or something because there's like these Bigfoot type creatures living in the woods just outside of town.
Urban Yetis.
Basically, yeah. It's
You ever play Urban Yeti on the Game Boy Advance?
No, is that a thing?
You should.
Okay,
yeah.
hold on. Let me
It's
write
kind of
that
like a
down.
GTA kind of game, but you play as a Yeti in a city, trying to find a mate.
Yeah, all right, I'll check it out. I don't know about that, but I mean, here's the thing: like aliens being real is not a good thing. So like I don't want aliens to be real. So the last thing I want to do is prove to the world that aliens are real. Because if aliens are real, they're obviously more technologically advanced than we are. If they're coming here and like on the down low, like visiting us or observing us or cutting the lips off of cows or whatever it is that they're doing. So like I don't want aliens to be a thing. To me, that's bad. All right.
Okay.
Sasquatch is just like who cares? Like if there's like some kind of gigantic, Bigfoot looking thing living out in the woods or whatever, like I don't.
Yeah. What if it was Loch Ness Monster? I mean, I was just.
Oh,
talking
I was
to my
into
son
the
about
Loch Ness Monster too when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, they're all
thought
like
that
these
was pretty
mythological
awesome.
creatures that they're, I guess all that stuff could be like under one banner, I guess, of like these mythological
I guess.
creatures.
But I would say the same thing about the Loch Ness Monster. Is like who cares?
cares?
Like if when you talk about like our
But
ghosts,
like, what if you could catch it and be like, look, I got it. Here it is.
I'm no interest in doing that. Like if ghosts are a real thing, like that has like far-reaching implications about like everything, like how we think the universe even works, what happens to you when you die.
Though, really.
Well, yes, but in a bad way.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't think aliens are not going to show up and be like, hey, you guys are so awesome. We want to help you and give you more technology and, like, solve all the world's problems,
I mean, that's a lot of Star Trek, though, right?
Well, it depends. I mean, who's showing up, Are you getting the Federation showing up, or are you getting, the Cardassians showing up, But, we all wonder about, what happens when you die, right? Because you have no way of knowing, really, So, but, if ghosts are a real thing, then you can say that, hey, this person that, your dead grandmother or your best friend that killed himself or whatever, like, they're not really gone. They just exist in an alternate state, and of course that's, various world religions also have their own opinion on that as well.
Right.
But it's the same thing. It's always like you can have faith that one thing is the truth or another thing is the truth. But the only way to know is you find out when you die,
So which one between aliens and ghosts would you say would cause world society in like life as we know it to collapse more severely?
Oh, aliens, obviously. I mean, have you never watched movies? Like,
I'm not saying like they'd come in and destroy, but I'm saying like just their existence, like they're like doing stuff out there. And I'm sure a lot of that, like, I mean, as far as I know, like I would assume that they are, like as in the movie Contact that's written by Carl Sagan, doesn't he say like, if we're all alone in this universe, it sure is a terrible waste of space.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's
but that's what I think when you say like, do you believe in aliens? You're asking like, do you believe aliens are visiting Earth? Like, I don't think.
But I mean, like we automatically assume like, oh, if aliens exist and they're visiting Earth, like they want to kill us.
Well, I mean, there's a risk factor there.
For sure.
The fact is, if there's aliens visiting Earth, they probably could kill us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But I mean, like the whole like ghosts and the religious implications of that also. Like, I mean, does that confirm like an existence of perhaps of a heaven and hell? Like, who knows?
Maybe. I mean, if you had some way to prove, oh yes, ghosts exist, I don't see how that runs counter to. I think you could find a way to just sort of incorporate that into most religious belief.
Hang on, you hear that beeping?
Yeah, what's going on there?
It just sounds like the smoke alarm went off. Our smoke alarm goes off all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
sure
driving my dog crazy.
It's not like carbon monoxide, is it?
No.
Or
It's just the one in our kitchen. Like if you're like cooking something on the stove and you don't have like the air like pulling it out, it's gonna set it off like all the time.
Yeah, we've got one like that too. It's super annoying. Like I'm just trying to cook and it's like going off, and it's like because then what do you want to do? You want to go unplug it, but it's like don't do that because you need to have a smoke detector.
Like all I want to do is like move it kind of a little bit further away.
Yeah.
To like maybe the dining room, which is like on the other side of the counter, essentially. Like just move it over there, and I think that would probably prevent that a little bit more, but it would still like go off if needed be. But the thing is like there is like it's the slot where it is like there's a big hole cut in the ceiling, so that means that I would have to really do a lot of work to move that.
Yeah.
And it would not look pretty when I was done.
You should have me come do it. You saw the patching job I did on my stucco.
Yeah. I mean, when you first sent me that, like I said to you, I said, "Is your house cracking in half?" And you're like, "No, that was the garage,
Just the
right?
garage,
Are you going to paint over it?"
Yeah, of course. It looks ugly, but it's just I mean, just for reference for everybody listening, like I sent Coury a picture, like my garage. I have a detached garage, and like it's like symmetrical on either side of the garage. There's a crack running down the wall just because I don't know if the ground is settled. I mean, the garage doesn't have the same kind of like, foundational support that the house does. Mm-hmm. And so it developed a little bit of a crack, and I could see over the years people have like patched it with like, here's some stucco patch, here's some caulk, and like, it just needed to get fixed properly. And so I dug all of that patching material out and opened up the crack all the way and then patched it with stucco patch. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I'm waiting. You have to let it dry for like 3 to 5 days, but then it keeps raining around here, so I'm waiting. But yeah, I'm gonna prime it and paint it. But I might need to put another like skim coat over the top of it because like it looked really good when it was wet, but when it dried, it shrunk a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so now if I paint it, you're gonna see it. And so I don't know if I put another little coat over it. Maybe that'll help. But
yeah,
And then we'll see as far as all the repairs I did to the house. It's going to rain a lot, so we'll see if we have water. I mean, I found at least where one of the leaks was coming from and fixed it. So, and that was kind of the one I was the most worried about. So,
before we continue on, do we want to is there any other thoughts do we even, so you're saying you want to prove the existence of ghosts?
100%. Yeah. That's my answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I personally want ghosts to be a thing.
Yeah.
Like I don't, as far as
what if they're just around you all the time?
That would be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, all the time.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if ghosts have a code of ethics,
Yeah,
some people say, oh yeah, I could feel my dad's presence when blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, do you feel your dad's presence when you're or whatever? I don't.
Exactly.
I hope that ghosts...
what if you don't feel their presence, but they're there?
But okay, but it's no different than my wife and I are around each other constantly, right? I constantly feel her presence and she constantly feels my presence because we live together, right? But if she goes in the bathroom and she's dropping the kids off, I don't come in there and hang out with her, right? There's certain times where you give someone their privacy, right? So I would hope that if ghosts are real, if your great grandmother comes to visit you sometimes, I hope that she knows that now's not the time to come hang out with Coury because he's doing something that, you normally afford someone some privacy for.
Yeah. Or what if they, if they accidentally walk in though? Oh,
hey man.
Whoops.
When I was,
and they're going to tell you all about it.
When my wife and I were on our honeymoon, we took a cruise and the maid walked in on us.
Was it weird? Or was she oh, I'm sorry?
Of course.
And just
what was really weird is my wife was oh, and I kind of turned around and I was hey, I was thinking maybe I could get something. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously it was weird, because I think that's the only time we've ever kind of been busted, because when else would that? It's not like we're people that go do it in public. So when else would that even really happen? Mm-hmm. But. Because I don't remember why, but it came up in a conversation the other day between my wife and I, because this is a long time ago. It's 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And, so it was kind of oh man, you remember that time on the boat and then the maid walked in? And I think I'd asked her, it's I wonder how often that happens with them, with the maids. I feel they get together during break time, be oh, I walked in on one again today,
It's got to be at least once a week, probably.
I would think.
At least, or if you're on a cruise, probably one time per cruise. But at the same time, they probably get real good at knowing whether or not to.
You would hope, yeah.
Just knock on the door.
Oh, I'm sure she probably did, but we probably just weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
Our attention was elsewhere.
So. Going back really quick to the stucco, is that the biggest construction thing you've done to your house, on your own? You think?
Well, I don't think patching stucco is a big construction
thing. But I mean,
it
was a big job. It looked like it probably took you a while.
Nah, it wasn't that big of a deal. But I mean, because I don't think it's that difficult. I think what's harder, and anybody who owns an old house probably knows about, you get dry rot, especially in the window frames, you get dry rot, and learning how to properly fix dry rot is more of takes a little bit more skill, especially because our windows have a decorative molding around them. Most old houses, the windows have decorative molding. And so if that, I got one time there's a window that the decorative molding got dry rot. And so I had to cut out all the dry rot and treat it and whatnot, and then use I use just Bondo to patch the dry rot. But then I had to put the Bondo in there and then kind of form it so that it looked like the decorative molding. And then once it dried, I had to use sandpaper to sort of fine tune it and make it look like the wooden molding. That was a lot more difficult. When
patching
you're all done,
stucco. Are you looking at it are you saying I did?
Dude, I'll still walk past that with my wife, and I'm hey, check out that patch job I did up there, because you really can't tell,
Yeah, I'm the same way. Where if I see something that I'm proud of, in home improvement wise, I did that.
But I mean, does demolition count?
Yeah, of course.
Because I mean, I should show you
down.
I should show you the pictures of what this basement looked like when we moved into the house. Like,
and you did it all yourself. You like knocked everything down. It was a bunch of rooms, and you.
Well, no, this is only one room. It's not that big of a basement, but like somebody had done something to sort of half-assedly finish the basement back in like the 70s.
Oh, okay.
And my wife and I always thought like, oh yeah, one of these days we're going to do something about that basement, but like we don't have other things to do. We never did it. And then when the people that lived next door to us, when they moved in, at some point they rented a construction dumpster, which one of those huge dumpsters.
Yeah, yeah.
And like he knew he wasn't going to fill it up. So he just told me, he's just like, hey man, just so you know, there's a construction dumpster going to be in my driveway for like 5 days. Feel free to like throw as much stuff in there as you want.
Yeah.
And I think my wife and I, it was like the first thing, like, ooh, the basement. And so like I came down here and just started ripping everything out. And like it didn't seem like that much. Like if you looked at it, you're like, oh, okay, this shouldn't be a big deal. But I mean, we like filled up the construction dumpster. Like I took a couple of days off from work and I came down here with like a hammer and a crowbar and some wire cutters and just started going to town.
Was it
tearing
therapeutic?
Everything out?
You didn't get to use like a sledgehammer or anything?
I don't think nothing ever required a sledgehammer. It was because it was just a lot of wood.
Yeah.
So I just crowbar to pry everything. Like part of the ceiling up here had like kind of it had like a false ceiling, but nothing as nice as like what you have. Like it had this real like crappy, like somebody put something up to cover up the floor joists, which I don't understand because I think they look cool, but there was like this whole built-in cabinet that was covering the sewer pipe that looked like crap. Like in front of me over here, what you can't see, but where I have like my computer and my PVM, this was all cabinets that looked like crap. And so we ripped all that stuff out. Like behind me over here to my right, this like behind this wall is the water heater and the furnace, but the wall frame was there. But then what was on the wall or what made up the wall was like fiberboard or something. Like it wasn't drywall. It was like something crappy.
Okay.
And then it had this weird, huge door it was just I ripped all of that. So I ripped this wall. I just left the frame of the wall and I ripped everything off. And like I said, ripped all the cabinetry out. I ripped all the stuff off that was on the ceiling and basically got it ready for people to come in and kind of refinish. They had to put up, because part of the basement down here was open to the underside of the house too. So somebody came in here and drywalled it, so that the wall goes all the way up to the ceiling so that now it's sealed off from the underside of the house. The one thing I would say I did down here, because like I said, somebody came down here and painted, or they didn't paint. Because we didn't know, because the walls were just totally unpainted. It was just bare concrete. Yeah. And we weren't sure, there's got to be a special paint for a basement wall. Paint? I don't think you just go to the store and just buy a can of
thicker or something like that.
I don't even know, but we went to one of the paint places and asked, and they're like, oh, we'll call our associates on the East Coast and we're going to figure out the right stuff. And then they came in here and they painted on this base coat of whatever the basement wall paint is. And then I did all the final painting, but, and then we paid people to come down here and put in the carpet and the laminate floor. But the one thing I did down here that I would say is pretty cool is I refinished the staircase. The staircase is just, I think underneath there is a concrete staircase, but somebody built a wooden staircase on top of it. But it was just made out of pine, and the wood had never been finished. It was just unfinished pine. And the staircase, like I said, based on some stuff I found down here, I think this work was all done in the 70s. Yeah. I found inside the drop ceiling was an empty bottle of bourbon. And I looked it up, and it was some really cheap ass brand of bourbon that was only sold for a few years in the 70s. And so I'm like, okay, this has been here at least since then. Mm-hmm.
Was there was no
no, it was empty.
Cigarette butts in there?
No, and no porn. I was hoping for some porn. But so I sanded the stair, because the stairs, it was dirty because people have been walking on it, this unfinished wood, for years and years and years. So I had to sand it down until it all looked clean, and then I stained it and then put a few coats of polyurethane on it, and it turned out pretty good. Yeah, but so I would say, even though, like I said, we paid other people to do the skilled stuff that I didn't have the skill to do, but
Yeah.
you know, I would say that my contribution to the basement, like, that has to be the biggest thing I've ever done. Although upstairs we've got like an attic space. We have like, it's called like a Tudor revival or something. Our house, it's got like these really steep pitched roof, you know. And so there's like an attic space above the rooms, but then there's also attic space to the side of the rooms. So like my office upstairs has like this weird little door that you can open, and you go into this little completely unfinished space. And so like you look up and you just see like the underside of the roof, and you see all the nails coming through that are, you know, holding the shingles on.
Yeah.
But that room was completely unfinished. And that's the side of the house that gets like hit by the sun.
Right.
And so that little room would get super, super hot in the summer.
Yeah.
And because there's no insulation at all, like our house is old, so all the walls are just lath and plaster. And you could put your hand up to the wall, like, you know, in my office or in the hallway, between the wall that's between the space you're standing in and the attic. And the wall would be like very warm. Right. So, I mean, so heat's radiating off those walls and like heating up the upstairs of the house, you know?
Yeah. You don't want to put stuff in there that's like, yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to put stuff in there no matter what, but I'm saying it's making our house warmer, like the inside of our house. And so like that was like the big project I did during the pandemic, was I went into that attic space and I insulated the walls between the attic space and you know, the sort of the inside of our house, you know, like I created, this is now like that attic space is basically now outside of our house. You know, when people talk about when you insulate things, you either bring a space inside your house or you make it outside. So like now that space can still get hot, but we had somebody come in there and put in an attic fan. But then I insulated the walls in there so that now in the summer, if you feel the walls, they're much cooler. But I mean, it's like multiple layers. Because, you know, I put like fiberglass insulation between all of the studs, and then I put like foam insulation over that, and then some other kind of reflective insulation over that. So that took kind of a while, but it was pretty fun.
Yeah. So you had to do like a lot of research to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I don't know what I'm doing, you know?
Yeah. And that's the thing that always scares me about that kind of stuff, is that, you know, I'll do a lot of research, but, you know, when you're in the moment and there's a chance you could screw it up.
Yeah.
Like I get real nervous about that stuff.
Well, I mean, I do the research, and I basically have to decide, like, do I think this is something I can do?
Yeah.
You know, because like I said, so all of our walls are plaster. Excuse me. Instead of being drywall, our walls inside the house are all plaster, and we get a lot of cracks in the walls just over time. You know, the house shakes or whatever else happens, plaster cracks.
Yeah.
And, you know, my first thought was I'm just going to go get some caulk and just like squirt it into the cracks and blend it in and paint over it. But I'm like, well, is that really the way you're supposed to do that? And so I did a bunch of, you know, watched, you know, like This Old House videos on YouTube and did reading, and they kind of explained how you're supposed to properly, because my whole thing is anything I do to my house, I want it done properly. Like, I'm not trying to do anything half-assed, or like I've had contractors. Yeah. But like I've had contractors come out to the house and be like, well, okay, here's the cheapest, you know, we're going to get this done for you on the cheap. Here's the cheapest way to do this. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, I don't want it done cheaply. I want it done correctly. Right.
Yes.
It's a huge pet peeve. We have a hard time finding people that come out and that will just be honest and be like, if you want this fixed correctly, here's how to do it. Like, at least give me the option. Yeah. Because we're willing to pay. I'm not saying,
I mean, in most cases,
we're not rich, but it's like,
they don't know how to do it correctly.
Then say that and then leave. Like,
right.
I don't.
Well, yeah, exactly. I 100% agree with you. And that's the thing about doing a lot of the stuff yourself. I mean, I do a lot of stuff in this house by myself, and you go above and beyond to figure it out correctly, because you don't want to burn down your house or destroy your house.
Right.
And B, you don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
And C, you just want to have that comfort of knowing that like you did it right from the start.
Yeah. Well, so to that end, it's like, so this thing with the cracks in the plaster is like, I just, I looked into it and it's just like, that's one of those things where, you
can't
properly,
screw it up.
well, it's just like properly fixing plaster so that it doesn't look like anything ever happened. Like that's like a skill that takes a long time. Like people that can do that really well are like real craftsmen. And so like, I realized like, nope, I'm not even going to try. And I mean, we even had like, it's funny, the guy that owns the company that, the HVAC company that we use, like we bought our AC from, like his background before he bought that company was he would do like mud and plaster. And so we had a little issue when they put in the AC, there was a little leak in the roof. And so it damaged some of the plaster, and he's like, oh, I'll just come fix it. And so he comes over and like he fixes it. And while he's doing it, he's telling me, he's like, yeah, I used to have, before I was in this business, this is what I did. And like, he would tell me about all the stuff he did. And the thing is, like, he fixed it, and like you 100% cannot tell that it's not like, it's like he erased the damage and it's just gone. And I remember watching him do that, and I was like, man, that's the kind of thing, like that's like a muscle memory that you develop over years and years of doing something.
The reason he probably said that is because he probably like legit enjoys doing that. Like that
Probably.
is something that it's like, oh, like not a lot of people can do this. And this is just kind of taking it back to like what I used to do. I mean, I feel like that's true for when I do, why I enjoy authoring Blu-rays and stuff.
Yeah.
Is because I did that for a long time, and there's something about it that is not fun to probably most people, but if you spend a lot of time doing that, it's kind of like,
yeah,
it's nice.
But yeah. And just going back to like, that home repair thing, I just think there's certain things where it's like, this is 90% technical. Like I just have to know how to do whatever this is. And there are other things where I think, yes, there's a certain technical aspect to it, but a lot of it is also sort of like almost getting into like artistry,
Yes.
And that's the kind of stuff where it's just like, I can learn the technical aspects of doing something, but if it's one of these things where a lot of it is just like artistry, you got to pay someone or it's not going to get done,
Yeah.
I mean, even that stucco that I patched, like I think it looks pretty good, but I'm sure if I'd paid a professional, it would look even better. But to me, it's like, it's the back side of the garage that nobody's even going to see.
Yeah.
And,
It still feels good to have done it though.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Even if it takes up a portion of your weekend. I had to cut a bunch of stuff off of a tree. We have a tree in our front yard that, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it has like this ash borer disease, which is like this bug that gets inside of trees and like
that's like not to derail
it's like a major problem.
Well, it's a problem for the guitar industry because most like the go-to, one of the main and maybe the main go-to wood for making electric guitars and electric basses is swamp ash, not swamp ash, swamp ash.
Yeah. And
so now like they've had to move away. Like a lot of these guitars are made out of other things because it's this beetle. It's this boring beetle. And so now they can't use you can't use the wood. You can't use the swamp ash to make guitars anymore because of this beetle.
What an unfortunate name, swamp ash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so one of our trees on our front lawn have this, right? And the people who owned the house previously, like, were treating it and saying, like, oh, you got to get, people coming out there, like, every couple of years, and they got to treat it. And I had no idea when the last time that they did it. And I started noticing last summer, it's like, oh, we've been here for 2 years now. It's probably time. And, like, it's not looking very good. Mm-hmm. So we had these people come out and they put these like things in there. There's like these, I don't know, there's like these, I don't really know how to explain what they look like, but they kind of look like a pen, but they have like a thing of liquid on the ends. Is like,
okay, like I can imagine what you're talking about.
Injecting it in, and they leave them there.
Yeah.
And, you know, they said, oh, it's kind of far gone. Like, I'm not sure if we can save it, but we'll do this. And, you know, like each treatment costs like $600. And we're like, oh my God, like if we have to pull this thing out, like how much is it going to cost? And we had another friend saying, oh, you know, we had 2 trees like that, you know, we had to get removed. And I'm like, well, how much does it cost somebody to bring in like a stump grinder? Like once you cut it down, you got to grind that stump. And because my wife was like, oh, well, you know what we'll do is we'll just, if we have to cut it down, we're just going to turn it into like a fairy, like house type thing where it's just like, you know, we'll like make something out of it. And it's like this cut, you know, you can sit out there or you can do something with it.
Yeah.
Or like build like fairy houses. Like that's kind of a big thing, like in this area at least, where people will put these like fairy doors on things and people try to find them all.
Yeah.
Anyways, she's like, oh, we'll do something like that with it. And then this person said, oh, we got ours removed and it was like we had 2 of them removed and it was $1,600. And I'm like, we've already spent like $1,200 trying to save this thing. We don't even know if we're going to be able to save it.
Yeah.
And what happened is, like, you know, we've had a lot of high winds in like the last year up here. We're kind of like on a hill, so we get like really high winds. But like a big chunk of the tree just like broke. And it was like balancing between 2 segments of the tree. So I had to get up there and like, we had this like kind of this smaller saw.
Yeah.
And we ended up cutting off all these branches. You know, like I don't know if we overdid it. Hopefully we didn't hurt the tree more by cutting a bunch of this stuff off. But if I would like to save the tree, but I'm not going to save the tree to like thousands of dollars, to the tune of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I get it.
I'd rather just cut it down. If we can get that stump grinder, then let's plant something new.
Yeah.
You know, instead.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere with that story. That's all I got.
No, just because you spent your weekend trimming trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes it's funny because I know we talked about this before, but I get annoyed because it's like I have things I want to do. Like I want to make I have these videos I want to make, you know, but then I'm like, oh, I get all stressed out because like I got this stuff I got to do. I got to fix on my house, you know, and I don't really necessarily want to do all that, you know, like I don't feel like I signed up for this, you know, like I didn't.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather live in a newer home where there's less upkeep, you know, but at the same time, it's a trade-off, right? Like this house is probably cooler than like a newer house would be, at least for us, you know.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that when you do those things, there's an immense sense of satisfaction.
Yes.
In my opinion, like not just the stuff, but I mean, I did all this patchwork over here on this wall where the leaking is happening and did a bunch of repainting. And, you know, when you're done, you kind of stand back and look up at that wall and, you know, that looks pretty dang good, you know, and hopefully.
And be like, yeah, I did that.
Hopefully
I
works.
feel that same way, like just every time I mow the lawn.
Yeah. Yeah. I bought a new ladder and everything, by the way, to do all that.
Oh, that's cool.
I didn't have a ladder that was tall enough for me to really get. Like now my ladder, I can reach like any point of my house.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's convenient. You know, in this big windstorm that we had this past Friday, like a part of our siding like kind of came off and it's like a little bit hanging.
Yeah.
It actually happened last year, and I got up there and I fixed it and I like kind of like nailed it in so it wouldn't happen again. But I must have like torn through that and it's just like kind of hanging there. And we had to like borrow a gigantic ladder because this thing is like at the top of the house. It's like right at the like the peak of the roof on the side. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that again. I'm not a big fan of heights. You know, like I don't know. I worked with a guy who was like working on his house one time and he like fell off a ladder and it like basically incapacitated him for like months, if not years. I mean, falling off the ladder.
I try to be, I mean, it's a dumb thing to say, but I just try to be careful. Everybody, you know, and then the other dumb thing I'll say that everybody always says, but it works, is just don't look down. Like
I know.
Because that's like, you know, it's like a 22-foot ladder. So like I have to get up, you know, it's like you, I had to get up to basically the peak of my house, you know, 2-story house. And, you know, I'm climbing the ladder. I'm looking up at where I'm going as I'm climbing, you know, and then when I'm up there, I'm focusing on my work. And then, when I get down, I'm really just kind of watching where I'm placing my hands on the ladder, and I just don't. Like, I don't think I'm afraid of heights, but like, I think if you're not at least concerned about heights, there's something wrong with you. Like,
Yeah. You see these people like hanging on mountains and stuff like rock climbing. It's like, no.
Yeah. I'm not into that at all. All right.
But I did say to my wife, I said, like, I'm not going to get back up there and do that. We're going to call somebody to fix it, and they're going to like make it so it doesn't happen again. I'm not.
Well, I mean, I think that would be, I can tell like my wife really doesn't like it when I get up on ladders. Like she's very scared for my safety. So if I said to my wife, I'm not doing that anymore, like she would be 100% on board. The problem that we have is we can't find people to do the work. Like, I feel like I have no choice but to do this stuff myself, because anybody we find, there's always some kind of issue, like either they come and like, oh, I'm going to do this the cheapest way possible, or they come out and they're just like, we had some guy come and do some work on our house, and like, I've never seen a more perfect example in my life of an asshole. Pardon my language. Like when you say like, man, that guy was an asshole, that perfect. Like the guy is just a complete, and he's one of those guys, he doesn't think he is one. And that's the worst kind of asshole.
Yeah.
Like if you're just an unapologetic asshole, I can at least respect that in some way.
Yes.
But the person that they think that they're a nice, cool guy, but actually they're just a huge asshole. That's the worst.
There's no way to reconcile that.
Yeah. All right. If you don't mind, can we tackle a couple of listener questions on the way out?
Let's hit a couple of emails, and then I haven't eaten my lunch. My stomach was growling there for a little bit.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Hopefully it's not picked up by the microphone.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a repeat questioner. This comes from Bob up in Oregon there, and Bob is a regular in my Discord. So, and I don't know if you remember. I don't recall the questions. I just remember he had like multiple questions that he asked last time. Because I remember we even had to flag the email like, oh, we'll come back to this later. So the only reason I say that is he says, okay, just one question this time. This is a good question. Answer only in the context of viewing enjoyment. This is an important point. So don't extrapolate out to anything else. In the context of solely of viewing enjoyment, Schwarzenegger or Stallone?
Oh, Schwarzenegger, without a doubt. 100%.
Yeah. Well,
Commando alone trumps like anything that any action movie that Stallone has done. The only thing that even comes close is probably Demolition Man for me.
Yeah. I mean, I have to agree, but, I don't want to make it seem like, I love Sylvester Stallone. Like, he's great. His movies, like the Rocky movies are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not Cliffhanger. Demolition Man, awesome. Yeah. Maybe not Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. But, to me, like, most Rocky movies are like, Rich Eisen remote drop movies. Like if I'm like, I don't flip through channels anymore anyways, but if I did, if I saw like, oh, Rocky 3 is on, drop the remote, I'm going to finish that one up. So I have great respect for Sylvester Stallone that he wrote Rocky.
Yeah, he wrote First Blood also, didn't he?
I'm not sure about that, but yeah, then the Rambo movies are cool. Over the Top, maybe, not a great cinematic achievement, but I remember enjoying it when I was a kid.
That's the movie about arm wrestling, isn't it?
Right, because how many movies can you name that are about arm wrestling? There was Over the Top, and then there's the scene in The Fly, if you remember, when Jeff Goldblum, when he starts turning into Brindlefly,
but
and then breaks the guy's forearm.
That movie's not about arm wrestling. Like, no. Over the Top is about arm wrestling.
Yeah.
And
single fatherhood, to be fair.
Maybe. I don't remember anything about it except for the arm wrestling. He's a truck driver that arm wrestles, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, like that, like who? Wait, did you say that he wrote that?
No. Over the Top, no. I'm not saying he didn't. Maybe he did, but I doubt it. I don't think you write Rocky and then you write Over the Top. But
do you think if someone sat down and said, I'm going to make a movie, I'm going to write a movie about arm wrestling?
See, I think when you go into the pitch meeting, though, I don't think you say that. Like, okay, guys, I've got this meeting or I've got this movie I'll tell you guys about arm wrestling. I think you're talking more about, him trying to like connect with his son and, blah, blah, blah. And, he's a, blue collar truck driver. And, it's sort of told in the context of, yes, he's also a professional arm wrestler. Like, I think you're downplaying the arm wrestling until you get the green light.
I'm overplaying it, I think, maybe. I don't know, because I think I've always joked about that movie, the fact that it's about arm wrestling. Like, I don't remember anything else about it except for I can think of the VHS cover and the fact that it was about arm wrestling.
Yeah.
It's just such a funny thing. And I'm like, every time someone brings that movie up, I'll be like, oh, that's the movie about arm wrestling. And I will say that in a way that it's like, isn't that hilarious?
Yeah. Yeah.
Every time. I can't not say that. But I'm gonna say Schwarzenegger without a doubt, because I mean,
I think you have to. There's
Commando
there's too many great movies that Schwarzenegger has made.
And he had like that run in like the late 80s and early 90s, like basically from like, I want to say like Commando up until like Last Action Hero. Last Action Hero was kind of like his first like misstep, I think, which I think is a good movie.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a movie that has like aged pretty well, and probably is much more liked than it was when it came out. But there was, like he had an insane run there.
Yeah. All right, one more.
Okay.
This is from Noah, and he says, here's a bunch of dummy text just in case. Really enjoy the show. It's the perfect thing to have on while I'm grinding in an old game or just need something to relax with. So before I even answer your question, Noah, I just want to say, because I don't know why I saw something yesterday that reminded me of this, but I'm one of those people, like, I enjoy, like, if you're playing an RPG and someone's like, oh, you have to do a lot of, like the first Dragon Warrior or something, like, oh, you have to do a lot of grinding. I like grinding.
I do too. It's just, I think it's just our age, and like, we played a lot of games that you had to grind. And I really appreciated when, like, on the PS1, there's a lot of games that they made it so that you could play with one hand if you wanted to. Like,
I have one of those PlayStation controllers, the one-handed controller.
But they do it with like Dragon Warrior. Probably 7 does it too. But I know that Dragon Warrior 8 like made it so they had confirm and back like on
as the shoulder buttons.
Yeah, as like the L1 and L1 and cool. L2, so you could play it with one hand if you wanted to. If you wanted to just like run around in circles and then play with one hand, you could.
But I mean, I remember being a kid and like you'd spend literally an entire evening, like in Dragon Warrior, like when you were first starting, just killing like slimes, drakes, and wyverns, just to try to get up, 5 levels and before you even bothered trying to go to the next town.
And a lot of times it would work well because you would grind, but also you'd just like make the money so you could buy like the real expensive equipment. And there's very few feelings of accomplishment in video games that can match that for me. Yeah, where it's like you grind up until you get powerful enough to just like basically wipe the floor with like whatever area you're in. Right.
All right. Anyway, that's not even Noah's question. So, but just, it reminded me, I don't know why that I had just been thinking about that. Like I said, maybe yesterday. I'll say, I don't think I have an answer for this, but I feel like you might. Okay. So he says, here's my question. What albums or songs do you strongly associate with a particular game? Whether they came out around the same time or you had it on in the background while playing, I find certain tunes logged into my brain even if they don't really fit. For example, I listened to a lot of NoFX while I played Majora's Mask years ago, so any song off of Punk and Drublick makes me think of that game. I enjoy your guys' music taste, so I'm always happy when you detour into album talk.
Punk and Drublick is a good... It's like that's the only NoFX album that I really know. Yeah. Much of it. That's one that I put on. My brother had the tape. So for me,
I'm just trying to think of like an album where I was playing a lot of this music while I was playing some game.
So for me, it's definitely Pearl Jam's 10 that I would listen to when I played through Lufia on the Super Nintendo. And I associate that music. I associate Pearl Jam with that game because of it. That is probably the number one example.
See, I knew you'd have an answer.
Yeah, and that's definitely the one I think of because I didn't listen to very much of the game music, and I was just found myself listening to that album.
My issue is I'm like the opposite. Like I don't want to listen to music if I'm playing a game. I want to listen to the game. So to me, it's more like the obvious answers, which are like the soundtrack to like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, or the soundtrack to the first couple of Gran Turismo games. But then it's like, well, of course you.
But those are licensed soundtracks. They don't really count.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I'm the same way where I don't. Like, that's the only time that I can really think of that because, that's one of the very few times that it's happened. Because I'd rather, if I'm playing a game, I want to experience, like, everything that it has to offer so that I can remember it. And, I've said before that, like, these days I don't listen to game music very much outside of games.
Yeah.
And that's just because, in a lot of ways, it's hard for me to, like, really enjoy the music without the context of the game.
Yeah.
As much. It's about the context that music is playing in.
I guess this is not really directly answering his question, but I'll say this. Like I have a strong association between Silent Hill, the first Silent Hill, and Weird Al Yankovic, just because I remember I had gotten that game and I'd been playing it for the afternoon or whatever when my friends came over to pick me up and we all went to a Weird Al Yankovic concert. So
that's cool.
That's kind of that's the only time I've ever seen Weird Al in concert, and it's kind of a strange association. You, where are you at on Weird Al?
I mean, I like the hits. The only album of his that I've like fully owned was probably Off the Deep End. The Nirvana cover.
Right.
We listened. It's funny now that you say that, and that's just like unlocked a memory for me. So we listened to that album a whole bunch. My friend Tim and I were playing Top Gear.
Yeah.
On the Super Nintendo, and we listened to that album a bunch during that. So I guess I could say that Top Gear,
that game has great music though. Top Gear.
I know, right? And like I didn't know that then though.
That's Gremlin Graphics, right? Top Gear. Because it was the same people that made the Lotus Turbo Challenge games for the
Chemco
the
is like was Chemco like the publisher?
I think Chemco is just the publisher. But
I think
Gremlin Graphics changed their name, I want to say.
Okay. I mean,
I'd have to look it up, and we of course don't do that. So,
but
all right, what do you say? Do you want to do one more, or do you want to end it?
Let's call it for today because
right.
I have to.
We're at 90
my wife
minutes,
wants to go on a walk,
like
and we got to take the dog for a walk, and I haven't eaten lunch.
All right. Well, then you've been listening to episode 21, the Blackjack episode of Here's My Question for You. If you'd like to have your question read, probably a couple months from now on the show, you can send us an email at here'smypodcast@gmail.com. And if you're someone that listens to the show through various podcast distribution services, you should also know we have a YouTube channel where all of the episodes are simultaneously released in video form. So if you want to see the amazing shade of blue that Coury's shirt is, that is how you would do it. Just search on YouTube for Here's My Question for You.
If you enjoy nothing more than just watching two dudes talking to each other, and nothing else, no other context, just them looking at each other and talking, from thousands of miles away from each other, then that's the YouTube channel for you.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a good week, everybody, and we'll see you next week for episode 22.
All right. Take care.